Hello students, the topic we are discussing today is childhood physical development. The objectives of this lesson are to describe the developmental trajectory of physical growth, to understand the course of motor development and to recognize the difference between gross and fine motor development, to be familiar with different concepts related to physical development in childhood. The course of physical growth in human beings is a longer drawn out process in comparison with that of other species. According to evolutionary theorists, the lengthy period of physical immaturity in fact provides us with added time to acquire the skills and the knowledge which are required in a complex social world such as ours. Physical development provides children with the abilities they need to explore and interact with the world around them. As we will see during this lesson, children's healthy growth is not just dependent upon biological factors, but it is also supported by healthy lifestyles. Children should get plenty of exercise and sleep and must eat a balanced diet in order to continue developing strong muscles and bones, and also to maintain a healthy weight. A young child's physical growth first begins as his or her muscles gain strength and the child gradually develops coordination. Physical development encompasses different tasks and abilities. The term motor development refers to physical growth or growth in the ability of children to use their bodies and physical skills. Physical growth illustrates many of the principles of development. The four basic principles of physical and motor development are the Cephalocaudal Principle, the proximodistal principle, the principle of hierarchical integration, and the principle of the independence of systems. We will now discuss each of these four principles in detail. First, we have the Cephalocaudal Principle. It refers to the fact that development proceeds from the head downwards. The child first gains control of the head, then the arms, and finally the legs. Infants develop control of the head and their face movements during the first 2 months after birth, and they are able to lift themselves up by using their arms in the next few months. Infants start to gain leg control and may be able to crawl, stand or walk by 6 to 12 months of age. The coordination of arms always precedes the coordination of legs. The second principle is the principle of proximodistal development. This indicates that development proceeds from the center of the body outwards. It describes the direction of development. The spinal cord, for instance, develops before the outer parts of the body. The child's arms develop before the hands. Hands and feet develop before the fingers and the toes. The finger and toe muscles, which are used in fine motor dexterity, are the last to develop in physical growth. The third principle is the principle of hierarchical integration. It states that simple skills develop separately and later these simple skills integrate into more complex ones. For example, grasping objects in the hand can be mastered once the child learns how to control his or her finger movements. The fourth principle is the principle of the independence of systems. It suggests that different body systems grow at different rates. It implies that growth in one system does not depend upon the growth of another system. So, for example, the growth of body size, nervous system and sexual characteristics are independent of each other. The body does not grow as a whole and in all directions at once. The growth changes can be divided into 4 types. They are the neural development, the lymphoid growth, the general development, which includes 2 aspects, skeletal growth and visceral growth, and the 4th type of development is genital development. Among these 4 types of developments, neural growth is most rapid. It involves the development of the nervous system. The nervous system grows very rapidly before birth and during the first 3 to 4 years after birth. Nearly 80% of this growth occurs by age 4, after which it tapers off. The rate of neural growth is relatively slow from this point onward. At birth, the brain weight is about 1/8 of the body weight. At 10 years, the brain weight would be 1/18 of the body weight. When the child is 15 years of age, the brain weight would be 1/30th of the body weight, and at maturity it would be 1/40th of the body weight. The brain grows more during the first 2 years of life. The growth of the brain affects all aspects of the child's development. The second type of growth is of the lymphoid tissue. The lymphoid tissue plays a key role in the body's immune processes, and it reaches the adult level by the age of 6 years, and it doubles at the age of 12 years. The next type is of the general development, and this includes the development of the skeletal system as well as of the visceral system. The skeletal system includes the bones that support and shape the body. The growth of the skeletal system is rapid at birth. The development of the viscera, such as of the respiratory and vascular organs, happens at the same rate as that of the bones and the muscle tissues. The last type of development is of genital development, and this occurs markedly after pubescence. Now, physical growth can also be seen in the dimensions of body proportions, height and weight. We first look at the changes in body proportions. Physical growth follows the cephalocaudal, proximodistal, hierarchical integration and independence of systems principles of development. At birth, the head and the trunk are disproportionately large, and the extremities of the body, such as the limbs, are disproportionately short. After the first year, however, the head grows more slowly and its proportion to the total body decreases progressively. The legs grow more rapidly than the trunk during childhood. Next, we have changes in height. At birth, the height of the baby is anywhere between 17 and 21 inches. The growth rate is rapid during the first 2 years. At 4 months, the child measures between 23 and 24 inches. Around 8 months, he or she would be 26 to 28 inches tall. And at 1 year, the child would be as tall as 28 to 30 inches. Around the age of 2 years, the child's height would range between 32 and 34 inches. Until the age of 11 years, boys typically are taller than girls. Then girls start to be taller than boys, but only up to the age of 15 years. The next type of change is in body weight. The average weight of the newborn baby is between 6 and 8 pounds. The trend of the growth curve of weight parallels that of height, but the rate is more rapid in case of weight. The child ordinarily doubles his or her birth weight in 6 months or less, but requires up to 4 years to double his or her height. Certain anatomical changes are also seen as the child advances in age. For instance, the teeth begin to form in the jaw from the 3rd prenatal month. During this period, 2 sets of teeth appear, the baby teeth and the permanent teeth. By the age of 9 months, children generally have 2 to 3 teeth. Around 6 years of age, the child would have 1 or 2 permanent teeth, and about 10 to 11 teeth by the age of 8 years. A 10-year-old would have 14 to 16 teeth, and a 12-year-old would have 24 to 26 teeth. By 13 years, children would have 27 to 28 teeth. The last 4 teeth, which are needed to complete the dental set of 32, typically appear by 25 years of age. The newborn baby is helpless and lacks volitional control. The motor ability of a child helps him or her to cope with the environment. We are going to be looking at 2 types of motor development. They are gross and fine motor development. The term gross motor development refers to physical skills that use large body movements, normally involving the entire body. This is the area of physical development that most parents think of first. That is, the child's general ability to move around and to use the various parts of his or her body. Activities like rolling over, crawling, walking, running, and jumping are examples of gross motor skills. These skills usually involve using the entire body or several parts of the body at one time. Now on the screen you will see pictures of various stages of gross motor development. We will now look at the gross motor changes taking place during childhood physical development. At 6 months of age, infants show basic distinctions in vision, hearing, taste, smell, touch, temperature, and pain perception. The picture on the screen illustrates that 5-month-olds are able to lift their heads on their stomach and possibly show squeals of delight as well as grasp objects and roll over. Around the age of 12 months, infants can control their torso and hands, they can sit without support, crawl and have growing control of their legs and feet. Infants can even stand or creep across the floor at this age. Around the age of 18 months, children can creep or crawl up the stairs, possibly even walk. They can draw lines on paper with crayon and will show growing physical independence. Around the age of 2 years, children can go up and down the steps, run, seat themselves on a chair, kick a ball, attempt to dress themselves, and may even show bowel and bladder control. 3-year-old children can run well, march, stand on one foot briefly, ride a tricycle, feed themselves, although we must admit there would be a bit of mess. They can even put on their shoes and socks and unbutton their clothes. Around the age of 4 years, children can skip on one foot, cut with scissors, dress themselves and throw a ball overhand. Such skills show their growing independence in terms of physical ability. At the age of 5 to 6 years, children can hop and skip, dress without help, have good balance and smoother muscle action. They even can write simple letters of the alphabet and establish whether they are left-handed or right-handed. Girls' fine motor skill development is likely to be ahead of boys by about 1 year. Now, at the age of 7 to 8 years, children can stand on one foot with their eyes closed for about 3 seconds. They can skip on both feet, possibly even ride a bicycle without training wheels attached at the sides. They can jump rope, catch and bounce a tennis ball, and even tie shoelaces. When they are of 9 to 10 years, children have the capability to roll, bat, kick and throw a ball. This helps them to be able to play more organized sports such as football, cricket and basketball. Their strength and coordination will further develop with practice. Puberty starts to appear around the age of 11 to 12 years, and this is why you will see kids developing at different rates between the ages of 8 and 18 years. This is because puberty starts for different individuals at different times. With growth spurts that accompany puberty, clumsiness and a lack of coordination. If the child is not athletic, it is important to help him or her find a sport or a physical activity that he or she enjoys. At this age, children who do not excel athletically are tempted to avoid all physical activity. Hence, they must be encouraged to engage in physical activity. Now we are going to look at fine motor skills. Fine motor skills are necessary to engage in smaller, more precise movements, normally using hands and fingers. Fine motor skills are different from gross motor skills, which require less precision to perform. The table on the screen lists the kind of fine motor skills achieved at different ages during childhood. It is meant to give a general picture of fine motor development at different stages of childhood. Between the age of 2 and 3 years, children can create things with their hands. They can build towers out of blocks, mold clay into rough shapes, and even scribble with a crayon or pen. Children of this age can also insert objects into matching spaces. This includes activities such as placing round pegs into round holes. 2 to 3-year-olds often begin showing a preference for using one hand more often than the other, and this is the beginning of their becoming right-handed or left-handed. Around the age of 3 to 4 years, children start to manipulate clothing fasteners like zippers and snaps, and they continue to gain independence in dressing and undressing themselves. Before they enter school, most children will gain the ability to completely dress and undress themselves, although they may take a long time to finish this task. At this age, children can also start to cut paper using scissors. 3 to 4-year-olds continue to refine their eating skills, and they use cutlery such as forks and spoons. At this age, children can also use larger writing instruments like fat crayons in a writing hold rather than just grasping them with their fist. They can also use a twisting motion with their hands, and this is useful for opening doorknobs or twisting of lids of containers. During the age of 4 to 5 years, children continue to refine their fine motor skills and they build upon earlier skills. For instance, they can now button and unbutton their clothes by themselves. Their artistic skills also improve and they can draw simple stick figures and copy shapes such as circles, squares and large letters of the alphabet. Drawing more complex shapes, however, may take longer. 5 to 7-year-olds begin to show the skills that are necessary for starting and succeeding in school. Examples of these would include writing letters of the alphabet and numbers and creating shapes such as triangles. Children of this age are able to use paints, pencils and crayons with better control. Children can also complete other self-care tasks beyond dressing and undressing, such as brushing their teeth and combing their hair. Physiological functions refer to the processes that take place in the body. These include sleep, eating and elimination of wastes. Alongside physical development, the child's physiological processes also mature and are set into routine patterns. During infancy, there is a shift from daytime to nighttime sleeping. Further, in childhood, the duration of sleep is dependent upon the level and the kind of activity the child engages in. Nonetheless, there is a decrease of about half an hour in the average sleep time as the age of the child increases. Eating behaviors evolve from sucking to chewing between infancy and childhood, and this helps children consume semi-solid and solid food in place of liquid food. Interestingly, the sense of taste concurrently develops and children begin to show likes and dislikes for different foods. And this is why many children would throw a fuss when they're given specific foods, because they have a certain taste to a particular food and they would like to have that always. As regards the elimination of waste, bowel control is achieved by the end of infancy, while bladder control, particularly during the night time, may take longer to learn. Typically, by the time the child begins school, bladder control is well established. There are a number of factors that influence the child's physical and motor development. We will now discuss some of these. The first factor is heredity. Children's age of physical development interestingly depends upon their parents' age of achieving their physical development. Moreover, physical characteristics are more striking in identical twins as they are more genetically similar compared to fraternal twins, and this suggests the role of genetic transmission of physical traits and characteristics. The second factor refers to prenatal conditions. Maternal health and knowledge, malnutrition and emotional trauma during pregnancy influence the child's later physical development. And this is the reason that pregnancy is considered the most critical period of development. Next, we have sex glands. Sex glands produce hormones such as androgens and estrogens, which are primarily responsible for male and female characteristics respectively. They additionally influence physical development. The next factor is socioeconomic status, or SES. Socioeconomic status refers to the individual's position or standing in the social and economic hierarchy. It is directly related to nutrition, health and enriched environment, which in turn influence the child's physical development. Next, we have to look at nutrition. Nutrition has a direct relationship with physical growth. Malnourished children's physical development is slower compared to that of nourished children's. Malnutrition during the first year can produce marasmus, which is a disease in which infants stop growing. Older children suffer from a condition called kwashiorkor, in which a child's stomach, limbs and face swell with water, and this is primarily owing to the consumption of a diet that is low in protein. Here is a picture of a child suffering from kwashiorkor, and as is evident, the child's belly is swollen with the accumulation of water that is resulting from a diet that is low in protein. The last factor we are looking at is home environment. This refers to the domestic life, and it includes the physical, social and psychological factors present in the home of the child. The influence of the home environment is very powerful. Children from overprotective homes, for example, tend to be physically apprehensive and relatively retarded in their gross motor development. On the other hand, due to lack of love and emotional support from parents, children's development can be delayed. This phenomenon is known as non-organic failure to thrive. So, it can be concluded from this lesson that physical growth depends both upon maturation and learning. Just the ability to walk is not sufficient, but as the child practices walking, his or her coordination improves. With maturation, learning plays a major role in the physical and motor development of children. Children's physical growth is guided by the 4 basic developmental principles. The first is the Cephalocaudal Principle, which suggests that development proceeds from the head downwards. Next, we have the proximodistal principle, which indicates that development proceeds from the center of the body outwards. Third, we have the principle of hierarchical integration, according to which complex skills develop through the integration of simple skills that had emerged earlier. And finally, we have the principle of the independence of systems. This suggests that the development of one system is independent of the other bodily system. Growth proceeds at different rates during different stages of development, but it tends to be fastest during the first 6 months of life. Growth changes can be divided into 4 types. They are neural development, lymphoid development, general development, which includes the growth of the skeletal and visceral systems, and finally we have genital development. Gross motor development refers to the motor skills which help children to get around in their environment, and this includes activities such as crawling and walking. While fine motor development refers to smaller movement sequences like reaching and grasping. Physiological functions also develop as the child's physical growth progresses. Both environmental and biological factors impact upon the child's physical development.